Alright. Now we move on to the third idea in the poem, children. I would read and you would read along in your books. But I was going to say, when the truth broke in, with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out and in to fetch the cows. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball, whose only play was what he found himself, summer or winter, and could play alone. One by one he subdued his father's trees by riding them down over and over again, until he took the stiffness out of them, and not one but hung limp, not one that was left for him to conquer. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon, and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pain you use to fill a cup, up to the brim and even above the brim, and then flung outward, feet first with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So I was once myself a swinger of the birches. Now children, this entire thing that I have read together is one idea. You can get that as one complete question of 8 mark. But I would try to put this in 2 videos to make it easier to understand. And we would have a little fun activity also in between to tell you certain principles of bird swinging. Alright, so now the poet says that, or the speaker says that he was thinking that these birch trees could have been, some child swinging from the branches could have made the birch trees bend this way. But then he says, I was going to say when truth broke in. Now what is the truth broken here is? T is with capital. Initially he gives a conclusion that probably it could be the boy swinging from the birch tree that would have resulted in the birch tree being bent. But then the truth broke in and he realizes with matter of fact that it was ice storm that had bent the birch trees permanently. But he says, I should prefer to have some boy bend them, that he would have preferred, though the truth has dawned upon him and he knows that it is the ice storm that has bent the tree permanently. But as far as he is concerned, he would have liked the tree to be bent by some child who had been swinging from its branches. He says, as he went out in to fetch the cows. Now a cowherd who would have gone out to bring the cows back, alright, to a cowherd who has taken his cattle grazing into the pastures, into the fields to graze. So he would have wanted that this boy should have bent these trees by swinging on the branches of these trees. And I have told you already that, bird swinging was a very popular sport back then in 20th century in the rural New England. So he says that, and why was this a very popular sport in rural New England? Now, urban people had more sophisticated sports where they had company, like, they could play baseball and other games where you needed company, other children to play with you, and you needed equipments, baseball, field, everything was required. But these rural children, these young boys, they did not have company, nor did they have any, it was one game they could play all the time. It says that while they would be going to fetch the cows, some boy who was far from town to learn baseball, right? These rural boys would be far from town, they would be in their rural New England. They would be far from towns to be able to learn how to play baseball. And this was a play what he found himself summer or winter could play alone. Now, why was this sport popular? One, he was away from town, could not learn sophisticated games like baseball that required equipments and other players. He said, it was a game that he found, summer or winter, this bird swinging could be a sport. And he could play it alone. No company was required. And he would, one after the other, keep climbing the birch trees, and he would subdue his father's trees. Subdue means bent, all right, or win over his trees. And how were the trees won over? How was he getting victorious over these trees? Now, once he would bend these trees, once he would be able to take away the rigidness from the trunk and make it limp or make it bend, that would be gaining victory on the birch trees. And very soon he says, by riding them over and over again. That is, he would keep climbing the trees one after the other, and he would keep bending them. And once he had done that, and once he had taken the stiffness out of them means once he had made all the trees grow limp because of this bird swinging, it was a sort of victory he would have. Right? It was a sort of victory that he would have. He would climb the trees one after the other, keep swinging from their branches till he was able to gain victory over each one of them. And what was gaining victory over each one of them? Once he was able to make the trees lose their firmness, lose their rigidness, and become limp and lean over. So that would be gaining victory over these trees. And he says that not one was left for him to conquer. So he would keep doing this till he was able to bend all the trees, and not one tree remained rigid. He had conquered them all. Now, here I would pause this video and we would engage into a little fun activity now.